The three issues that we really want to focus on with you today are, one is around the Bridge Act, which you've already heard of. Another is around the use of detention and deportation. And the third is really with regards to accountability and oversight of Customs and Border Protection and Immigration and Customs Enforcement, so CBP and ICE. So we'll go into each one of those. Yeah, great. So we'll start with the Bridge Act, and I want to give just a little bit of background before we talk about the legislation itself and what it would do. So as many of you know, there are approximately 11 million undocumented individuals and undocumented immigrants in the United States, and there are many injustices that this group of people face. Among them, of course, are access to employment, access to services and resources, such as to be able to attend schools, for example, also workplace violations of rights, etc. We could go on. Of those approximately 11 million, about 1.8 million are what we call dreamers, or young people who came to the United States as children, who know the U.S. as their home, who lack legal status. And they're known as dreamers, as many of us know, because of some legislation that was introduced and reintroduced, and unfortunately has not passed Congress, that would have provided a pathway to citizenship for those young people who study, who serve in the military. And so, as I've mentioned, this piece of legislation, the DREAM Act, has failed to pass on multiple occasions. And so in 2012, then President Obama ordered the creation of the DACA program, or the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, and that was to benefit those individuals who would have benefited from the DREAM Act. So what DACA does, the creation of DACA did, and what DACA currently does as a program, is provide temporary relief from deportation, and it also provides employment authorization for those who meet certain criteria, who pay an established fee, and who also have to pass a background check, among other criteria. And so there are more than 750,000 young people who have received and benefited from DACA, and I want to, of course, make note that within our own Jesuit network, there are some really wonderful DACA recipients and folks who have, I think, seen the benefit of this program and who would benefit from these types of legislation. Just last Thursday, we had the privilege of working with ISN, the Nation Solidarity Network, and here at the Jesuit Conference to organize and put on a briefing with elected officials' offices, so staff that work with those in Congress, to present on the Hill, and Myra from Loyola University in Chicago shared her story as a DACA recipient, an undocumented individual, of some of the challenges that come with the lack of legal status, and the importance of us continuing to work towards immigration reform. So it's with her in mind, and many others within our network, but also around our country, that we're mindful of these programs and these pieces of legislation. I want to note that President Trump, leading up to his inauguration in the first few weeks of his administration, has threatened to repeal DACA, but it's important to note that has not happened, or at least it hasn't happened yet. That said, we continue to be certainly concerned with the situation of all undocumented individuals, and especially of these individuals. So I want to talk a little bit about a piece of legislation that was initially introduced in December of 2016 and was reintroduced in both the House and the Senate in the 115th Congress, which is the Congress that we're in right now. And the piece of legislation is called the Bridge Act, and it stands for Bar Removal of Individuals Who Dream and Grow Our Economy. And so basically what this legislation would do is to provide what is called provisional protected presence and employment authorization to those individuals who are eligible for DACA. And so it ensures that they can continue to work and to study and to be protected from deportation while Congress debates and looks for a longer term and more comprehensive solution to our broken system. And would note that that protection has a duration of 3 years from the date of enactment of the bill, of the legislation. It would benefit those who currently have DACA, those whose DACA expires. They could apply for the provisional protected presence, and those who don't currently have DACA also, but are DACA eligible, would also be able to apply for it. And so there's a couple of things that I want to note about the Bridge Act. The one that I've already mentioned, which is that this is really a temporary solution, right? So we know that really what we're seeing at present is the failure of a larger system. There's structural challenges with the immigration system that we have, and it really requires a much more comprehensive response and a much more compassionate response. But this is one small step, but it's a step in the right direction towards fuller participation from those dreamers among us. The other thing I want to note is that this is a piece of legislation that has bipartisan support, and that the original sponsors have intended it in that way. And so right now in the Senate there are 8 co-sponsors, and in the House there are 17 co-sponsors, and they're even with Democratic and Republican support, and that's very intentional. And so we want to continue to, and I think this might be the next slide, or I'm sorry that I can't see it, but we want to continue to encourage our elected officials to take leadership on this issue and to co-sponsor if they haven't already. So basically what we would ask you to do is check if your senator and your representative are already co-sponsors. If they do, please be sure to thank them. That's very important. Can't emphasize that enough. If they're not already co-sponsors, then please urge them to become co-sponsors of this piece of legislation so that it can move forward. And why don't I pause there and see if there are questions on that piece, on the Bridge Act?
Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's possible that there are many Democrats that could be supporting the Bridge Act that are not co-sponsors right now, and this is because of that kind of member-to-member sponsorship style that's going on. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. So the original co-sponsors of the legislation have decided, they've heard expressions of support among numerous Democrats, and they have actually held off on making them official co-sponsors until there is a Republican to also become included as a co-sponsor and demonstrate that bipartisan support. So for those of you that live in states and districts where you have Republican elected officials, it's especially important that you reach out to them and either thank them or encourage them to also become co-sponsors.
Great. Kristen, there was a question. It was posed in terms of collaboration going on right now with United Dream supporters related to the Bridge Act.
On their website.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say it's been limited. There has been some collaboration and coordination in efforts of broader coalitions, but it hasn't been as close as it could be. And I'd be curious to hear if there's a particular interest from the person who asked that question about collaboration and coordination with United We Dream.